Hello, good morning. I am very excited to be here with you. It's morning, yeah, most places where I'm streaming. I'm sure over the pond it is not, but good morning on this beautiful Friday morning to all of you. It is December 6th, and we are less than 20 days to Christmas. For those of you who celebrate that, these are stressful holiday times, and the last thing you need is to be rejected during yet another consultation for myofunctional therapy. A lot of people have been having these issues. This has been one of the more anticipated versions of my live streams. And so I'm really excited to help you get over the humps that have stopped you from converting. Just so you are familiar with me and who I am and why I am speaking to you about any of this, I'm Carice. I am a myofunctional therapist full time with my practice, The Myo Spot. I teach myofunctional therapy with my courses, whether it be in introductory format, which I really don't like that word, but in Myo Pathway, or in advanced format or specialty format on Myo Launch. And I'm just really excited to be here with you. It is such a privilege every week that we get to do this. So, welcome. I am thrilled to be a part of your journey in some way, shape, or form. It really is truly an honor. You don't understand. It really is very much an honor. I want to keep this going. And so, we just got to keep the word flowing. So, if you are watching on YouTube, subscribe. Turn on some notifications so that you get the alerts. That way, you don't have to watch out for when is Carice's next live stream going to be. You're going to be the first to know as soon as it's scheduled. Comment, because that's going to enhance the reach. The more people this gets out to, the easier it is for me to figure out what the next steps are. What else do you guys need to know? Where can I help you? What kind of research can I do to make sure that we are getting ourselves as a field further? Because myofunctional therapy, as we know, is pretty much a gateway industry where everybody has some sort of payment wall or barrier to getting additional information. And I don't want to be that. And so let's keep this going. Like, comment, share, subscribe. All right. All right. Jumping in. You've all been here, haven't you? If you've started in myofunctional therapy, you've certainly been here. For me, all of my consults are virtual, and we're going to go through my whole consultation protocol and what exactly it is that I do and how you can better convert. But all of them are virtual, so that's me sitting in front of my computer, happy, ready to meet somebody new, and ready to help and see how I can be of service to them. And then you're hit with like a really hard no thank you, not interested, whatever. It really can be a downer because you weren't anticipating that. You have so much passion, you have so much joy, you're ready and vibrant, and you're meeting them with good energy, and you're educating them, and you feel like you've done everything right, only to get rejected is very, very big on the list of letdowns. And typically it comes with some of these very common objections. I always ask in the beginning of these things to say hi, hello. Oh, good. Hey, Sherry. I'm glad somebody is saying hello. Good. I know you can see me, you can hear me. All right, awesome. So the common objections, just so that we can kind of cross these things that everybody's hearing off the list, it's always price or cost. How many people, whether you're watching live or watching on the replay, you can throw it in the comments. How many times have you heard that it's just too expensive, they can't afford it, or maybe not right now, or they would have to figure out, or maybe if it was covered by insurance, then yes. And so you've thought to yourself, well, maybe my prices are the problem. Probably I should be lower. Maybe I am too expensive. Maybe this is something that, most people can't afford. And you just start putting all of that negative energy into your pricing and your pricing process. Go back to mindset from last week. I think you'll feel a little bit better about pricing. And don't worry, we'll get into objections and covering these types of objections a little bit later. Another common objection that I certainly have heard is that they feel like they're too old. Like, I have kids. I think I should prioritize the kids. I'm probably too old to get anything done. And I get it. I've been there. My husband has issues, but we have 4 children. And so we wanted to prioritize the children. So that wasn't a no for him. It's just after the children. And that's really what it should be. It shouldn't be like, oh, you're too old and therefore you know you can't get results. We know that to be a false statement. We know that to not be true. And there's plenty of things that we can do at all stages of life to be able to facilitate optimal or leverage optimal oral function into overall wellness. The program is too long. Anybody tell you that, oh my gosh, you want me to work with you for how long? For 6 months, for 9 months, for a year, for 2 years? You want me to work with you for how long? That's just too long. It's too involved. You want me to commit to doing all these exercises and working every day? Like, no, absolutely not. I can't do it. Or it's just not the right timing. There are some other objections. If you can think of one that you've heard that I don't have listed, throw it in the comments. That's a wonderful thing for us to chat about a little later. I'll go back into the comments a little later. But these objections, if you're getting these objections and you're getting them very frequently, then, I'm sure that the problem is you tried to sell them OMT. That's it. Like, you were talking to them about oral facial myofunctional therapy, oral facial myology, oral myofunctional therapy, or whatever you're calling it today. You were trying to sell them that. And, I know that's a bit confusing. It's like, but that's what we do. We're myofunctional therapists. Isn't that what we're selling? We're selling myofunctional therapy. Well, I'm sorry to burst your bubble. It's your passion. You're excited about it. You love it. You've invested thousands into it. Everybody has. I've been down that rabbit hole. I am at least 30 G's into myofunctional therapy. And so I get it. We are sucked into the rabbit hole, but literally no one cares. No one cares. Your passion is your passion. It is not their shared passion. You probably missed what you were supposed to sell them, which is their end result, their goal, their outcome. Not proper oral resting posture, because literally nobody cares about proper oral resting posture. Nobody cares about whether they're breathing through their mouth or their nose. Nobody cares about certain aspects of health or wherever it is you're trying to get them to, because there's always another way to approach that. So, yes, I can easily create an objection that says, okay, you want me to stop mouth breathing. And to stop mouth breathing, I have to work with you for $2,000. I just came up with an abstract number. I have to work with you for $2,000 over the course of a year. I'm sure there's an easier way for me to do this. Yeah, thanks. No problem. I'm just gonna, go buy some mouth tape maybe, or do some exercises on YouTube, or go see an ENT, or talk to anyone else who might be able to facilitate an answer for me that doesn't cost $2,000 for me to close my mouth and breathe through my nose. It might even be covered by insurance. Very easy to create that objection, because what you were trying to sell me had nothing to do with a tangible outcome that I feel is worth $2,000, or that most people feel is worth $2,000. It is something in which there's a lot of over-the-counter solutions. You can go into any CVS, you can go buy yourself some clear, you can go buy yourself all sorts of remedies and things to help declog your nose, decongest. You can start using neti pot, whatever. All of these things we can find an easy out for, right? So it's your passion, you get it, you're educating them, but nobody is really going to spend the money based on the education alone. What they really need to know is that if the mouth breathing is stopping them and preventing them from a real life experience, so they are unable to, if they're unable to share a bed with their partner, and it's been 10 years that they've been married and they've never shared a bed, and they really wanted to do that, but you had no idea, you can't speak to that. That might be something that I might spend $2,000 for. I might spend more than that on a mattress, hoping that that mattress might help me alleviate my snoring, if it can prop me upright of just enough and so forth, that I can share the bed with my partner again. And so it's all about the outcomes, and it's not about your passion. And that is no slight to you. That is no slight to what you are doing and what you can accomplish for them with myofunctional therapy. But you have to talk about it differently, because in these days and times when money is tight for all of us, I don't know who else is going to the grocery store and looking at like cans of tomatoes and ridiculous things that used to charge so much less for, and now I'm paying like what, 30% more we're paying on some of these items. I've never spent so much money on milk. The almond milk prices are outrageous as far as I'm concerned. My husband's always talking about the almonds themselves. And when you go into the aisle, he's like, oh, I remember when. And it's like, please stop talking about that. It's depressing how much we used to pay for this as compared to now. Everybody's trying to save their coins. And when we're trying to save our coins, I don't need you to come up with a fancy solution or an expensive solution for tongue posture. I don't care enough about tongue posture. I still have to put food on the table for my children. Now, if you tell me that I need this because my child's future is at risk, or they might have educational issues and problems, or that their ADHD might not actually be ADHD, and this might be a route for me to get around what I've been doing already, which was medicating the child. These are things that I'm now investing for. These are parts of the reasons why I invested so much money into learning myofunctional therapy so that I could get the best outcomes for my kids. And so you really have to get back into why people would find ways and creative solutions to come up with money for things, or to find a way to fit it in their budget because this is a priority. Okay. And I know some of you might be saying, well, I live in an area where, people are not wealthy, they don't have money and whatever. I don't know how many of you feel like it is different and or special to talk to people and to sell things in areas where there's a lot of money. It's actually more difficult because some of these wealthy people, they hold on to their coins a little tighter than even some of us who might be, in the working class or middle class or whatever. And so it's really not easier on anybody's part. There is a little bit of flex to it, and there is some understanding, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But you have to look at it differently. Stop looking at OMT as like the thing you're selling. You're selling that to literally no one. No one. No one cares. Okay. Once we get over that, let's look at like what the process should actually look like. At least in my opinion, not everybody does a consultation, but I think the consultations are really, really crucial. That's a great time for me to get to know and to really understand if I want to work with this person, if this person wants to work with me, if we should even work together. Will we butt heads? Do I foresee major problems, like huge red flags, in just having a conversation with them for 20 minutes? That's probably not somebody that I want for a full hour when I'm doing an evaluation, and then to then continue to see them for months on end. Mm-mm. So I think the consultation is incredibly important for a number of things, but the consultation always comes first for me in my practice. It's always virtual, or I've done it on the phone. We'll get to that in just a second. But the evaluation and the intake is always followed by, always preceded by, some form of a consultation. After that, we go into like the real program and so forth, but we'll talk more about it. So consultations, why I think it's so critical is because I just mentioned I get to know whether or not I want to work with someone and whether or not they're a really good fit for me. Because if they're not the right person for me, and I tell everybody on the call, every single time, my husband starts to mimic it now when he hears me on a call. He'll be mimicking while I'm like, myofunctional therapy is amazing and wonderful, but you have to know and understand that it's a commitment. And if for whatever reason you can't commit, you might be moving, you might have a wedding, you might have a big project at work. If you have some reason in the next 6 to 9 months that you cannot commit for large periods of time to this myofunctional therapy program, it's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. And I don't want to waste either for you. And he's just like, I don't know. I don't know why people sign up if they didn't hear that. Most people who do understand that it's a commitment, commit. And once I stress that it is a waste of time and a waste of money, valuable resources for most people put it in a box. They know where they stand. up, you know what? I am getting married in 3 weeks, and I do not want to, in any way, shape, form, or capacity, have to deal with this whole myofunctional therapy thing during that. I'm going to contact you after my honeymoon. Don't worry, we'll actually get in touch with you after your honeymoon. But you get to determine if it's right and if they'll be the right fit for you. You want people who are committed, who are going to finish, who you get good outcomes from, and who are going to help promote your services, because that's essentially what this is all about. It also allows flexibility if desired in your fees and your plans. So, some people, because I know I'm not the only one, I talk to many of you, and all of you have so many great things going on. When you have various self study programs or self help programs, it's phenomenal for access to care. And that's a big passion project of mine. When you go on my website, or anybody goes on my website and they want to see how they can work with me or what are my fees, the very first thing they'll see is how they can help themselves, like self study. If you want to work on your own and you want to get this done, I have books, I have journals that are going to work you through the whole thing. I have tongue tied courses. I have a full myofunctional therapy program. Like, we have everything already in a library of sorts of courses. And so, if you cannot afford one on one therapy with me or any of my colleagues that I could send you to, and I do when I can send them other people's way, if you can't afford working with me, that allows me the flexibility now to say, okay, well, here are some other options. Here are the limitations of those options. And here's exactly what you get when you go into one of those options. Following question that always comes up is, if I need additional support, can I book one-on-one calls with you? Absolutely. Absolutely. You definitely can. Here's the fees for that. This is how this works, yada, yada, yada. And so you get that flexibility. If you don't have any self-study options, but you're willing to work on a sliding scale, because maybe you work in a neighborhood that's not very affluent, or you know that there's not enough money in the area, and people probably can't afford a full priced myofunctional therapy program, and so you're already on the lower scale, but there's a family that you really want to help. You know them, you know, they've helped you in some way, shape, or form, or you guys are old family friends or whatever. You can be flexible in your fees, and you can talk to them about what it is that they might be able to afford. Or if you want to be in control of that conversation, you be in charge of that conversation and say, here's what I can offer you. Here's how many payments I can split this up to. That way I can help you get to where you need to be. You get that flexibility only if you're talking to them in a consultation. If you throw them right away into an evaluation, I mean, you're kind of blocked in. Like, this is what it is, this is the fee. And then when they get the full program rate and whatever, then it becomes like, oh, okay, well, oops, maybe I can't go forward and do any more than just this evaluation. The consultation also helps you understand, and this is the most important part, their true desired outcomes or goals. So, what they give you as the goals sometimes is actually their goal. But most times they give you some like surface level response. I ask on all my paperwork, all my consultations require paperwork. If you can't even do paperwork for me, then we don't need to talk. But my consultation is free. On my paperwork, I have, what are your goals? What are your hopes for myofunctional therapy? Some people might write tongue tie. What does that mean? Like, are you hoping that at the end you'll have a tongue tie? Like, I don't understand why you would put that there. But so many people do that, and they do these ridiculous, like, really rush simple answers, and then other people will flesh things out for you. I'm hoping that for once I'll be able to have my fiance and I under the same roof, because we keep going back and forth between each other's houses, and I refuse to get married and not share space with my fiance. Wow, that was powerful. I can't believe you just wrote that on paper. That is amazing. I didn't have to sit down with you to talk about that, but I can't wait to dive deeper, because now that I know that that's your goal, I'm not selling you OMT. I'm selling you your future with your partner. I'm selling you a happier outcome. I'm selling you the ability to get married with confidence, knowing that you'll be able to share a space. That's what I'm selling you. How much is that? That I can sell, right? And so it gives you the ability to understand their true outcomes and their goals, because you can get to understanding that if you just follow the right sequence of steps and you're listening really well. Okay. Consultations don't have to be in person or over Zoom. A lot of people just do phone calls. You also don't have to do like a fancy scheduling software or whatever. Sometimes people have gone to my website and they're like, there's a lot going on there. There's this form that's interactive. There's this chat bot that's like asking me all these weird questions. There's, the scheduling form itself that's there. So there's a form that you could fill out that's an interactive form. And then there's a schedule that just pops up that you can fill out there too. And then there's the chatbot, and there's just all this stuff, right? But it doesn't have to be like that. Some people are like, what's the phone number? Great, dial that in. Hey, I want to meet with you. You could just do a phone call. Phone calls are cool too. You don't have to have fancy setups. You don't have to have anything more than maybe some way for them to be able to initially outreach to you to say that, hey, I would like to meet. And then you can have your consultations. You don't have to have anything fancy. Okay. And they don't have to be long. Most of my consultations are somewhere between 15 to 30 minutes. I had one consultation, one and only one ever. It was 74 minutes. This woman had all the research and had seen so many people, and she talked to a wealth of individuals about myofunctional therapy. She had been to all of the top doctors. She had traveled to go see people. She was in Kotlow's office. She had seen Siegel. She had talked with various providers who do various appliances. Like, she was determined to get her child the best care. And so she had so much to talk to me about. And we just sat there for 74 minutes, just going back and forth, kind of geeking out, because she became as passionate about it as I am. And we just really were able to vibe. But outside of that, I don't talk to anybody for any more than 30 minutes. Most people, 15 on average. I'll block out 30 minutes, but you don't even have to do so much as that. You could probably get this done in 15 to 20 minutes tops. Okay. So they don't have to do any of that, but what they do have to do is convert. And so you do have to be able to transform some of those, a good chunk of those, into some form of business for you. Because at the end of the day, I don't care how passionate you are, your passion does not pay the bills. Your passion does not pay the bills. And so you have to, in some way, shape, or form, get all of these people to turn into leads. I say that I'll talk to anybody, anywhere, at any point in time about myofunctional therapy because I'm so passionate about it. If you've ever heard me on a podcast, that's typically how they end, where I'm like, I offer free consultations to anybody because I will talk to anybody, anywhere for free about myofunctional therapy. I'm so passionate about it. But, of course, in my consultations, I'm working my way into how is this going to turn into business. And so it's really important that your consultations are going to convert and that you're going to be able to get them to the next step, because that's the only way that your passion is going to serve them purposefully in helping them get to their outcome and their goal. Okay. I've taught on the sales process before. I promise you, this is the third time that I'm teaching about it on this YouTube channel. But this is probably going to be the most impactful way for you to get it, hearing it again and again and again. Because if you don't, you're not going to get it. Okay. So sales, we're breaking it down as an acronym. SALES, serve, ask, listen, empathize, summarize. All right. Let's do this for a consultation. It's going to look a little different. So your consultation is not about you. It's not about your services. They think they're coming to you to meet with you, to talk about myofunctional therapy, to find out what your fees are, to understand what your hours are, how you work, if you work with them and their specific concerns. That's what they think they're on the call with you for, to learn about you and what you do and so forth. That is not what they're on the call, guys, for. That might be their intention. Your intention is to understand and to fully comprehend how you can help them best. What is their end goal? It is about how you can help them. Has nothing to do with what your services are. OMT has nothing to do with any of that. Okay. Just lean into this. Okay. With that in mind, my very first step on my consultation. So I ask everybody to fill out paperwork. It doesn't matter how you come into my funnel, if you schedule from my interactive form, if you schedule directly on my scheduling calendar, if you call and you reach my team, if you do the chatbot is what I was forgetting. If you do the chatbot, because the chatbot schedules appointments too, no matter how you come in, I need you to do paperwork. If you don't do paperwork, we don't meet for the consultation. The consultation paperwork is really going to be just my whole intake. It's informed consent because I need them to understand the limitations of myofunctional therapy. I am only working on proper oral rest posture. Everything else is a happy accident. Once you understand that, that takes away 50% of what you thought we could talk about on the call. Okay. Then the registration paperwork so that I get all the demographic information. I do mobile therapy, and so I need to know, like, am I going to you? Are you going to be telehealth? Like, this is going to shape how I'm going to talk to you. How did you come to me? Was it a referral? Did you just happen to find me? Was it Instagram? If you're not figuring out how people are finding you, then that you need to have on all of your registration forms. It's incredibly important so that you know what's working and what's not. The last step is a background and history, all the signs and symptoms. It gives them something to think about. Okay, so they already come to the call somewhat prepared. They understand a little bit better the limitations of myofunctional therapy, and they've kind of gotten an overview of what the 30 top signs and symptoms look like and what from there they have and how extensive that is or how minimal that is. But importantly, there's a little form that says, like, what are your goals? So I always have this same way that I start out every consultation. I want to know how we got here. Thank you so much for being here with me today. It's a pleasure to meet you. I got to read over your paperwork, and I understand that you are experiencing insert problem here. Okay. I'd love to hear it from your own words, though. What brought you here to this moment, this meeting right now? Fill me in on how you got to Mayo, what your goals are, and how I can help. Then I'm just ready to listen. I've got a paper, I've got a pen, I'm ready to listen. I'm taking down all sorts of notes. Okay. How did you get here? Everybody word vomits at that point. You get a couple of people who have no idea whatsoever how they even got onto your website. They just magically appeared and they're like, I don't know. I don't even know what this meeting's about. Okay, well, that's a bit of a problem. And that changes things a bit. But most people know why they're there and they will word vomit for you. And they'll be like, well, it all started when I was an infant, or it all started when my child was an infant, or it started in pregnancy when, I had a lot of heartburn and like they were sucking their thumb and we were doing whatever. And so they're going to go through all the things for you. So it's really important that you are really listening to all that, because you're really going to get into their goals and what their struggles are from listening to their life story. So listen, okay? Listen to understand it. Don't listen to respond to it, because I know what you want to do, going back one slide, is to start educating them and start telling them about the connections. You want to talk about their acid reflux. You want to talk about their poor breastfeeding. You want to ask about why they didn't get a tongue tie consultation or whatever. You want to ask all these things. You want to educate. Don't listen to respond to find out where you need to fill in blanks. Listen to understand their concerns. Okay. When you do that, you're going to uncover and discover so much critical data and information. All of the things that you really need to know in order to get to what the real problem is. Okay. So I take all my important notes and I really get to understand where they struggled. If it was a lot of feeding issues, it's breastfeeding, and then, early feeding, they struggled with this, that, and the next. They went and they saw the ENT and they got ear tubes and they did this and they did that. They struggled. They struggled with early feeding. They struggled with infections early on. They struggled with nasal congestion early on. They struggle. Okay. Here's where now I need to now take this and put myself into this as if I am a screenwriter or I'm a director of a movie. And I'm thinking, if this is a movie, if their life is a movie, because all movies are stories, if their life is a movie, how did this character interact with their world as a result? As a mom, I can relate to certain people who do tell me stories about their struggles with their children. As a practitioner, because I can't say myself that I've struggled with some of the oral facial myofunctional disorders that a lot of my independent adult clientele have experienced, but as a practitioner, I've heard enough stories that I now can identify where they are and how they're interacting with the world as a result of struggling with feeding, struggling with their smile, struggling with the finances, or just feeling like they've been ignored and nobody's listened to them or their story, and people think that they're crazy and whatever. Like, how are they interacting with their world? What does that mean for them? What does that mean for them? Is that impacting work? Is that impacting their home life, their marriage, how they interact with their children, with their family? How is that interaction impacting them? These are the things you need to know, because these are the things you're speaking to. It is a symptom of an oral facial myofunctional disorder, but they're not working with you because of the oral facial myofunctional disorder. If that, I just really need that to resonate for you, because what they're really looking for is to interact with the world in a different way, to have a different experience day to day, to have a different outcome. And that outcome is going to push and propel them forward in life in some new way, shape, or form. That's what they're paying for. That's what they're hoping for. The rest of it, be gone. Nobody cares. Okay. Where can you dig in from what you've learned about their story? Where can you dig in? How can you learn more is what you need to be thinking. Okay. Don't ignore their concerns. A lot of times you might get people, like I get people all the time who are talking to me about all sorts of things, like, oh, my child and their speech and this and that and the other. I'm like, okay, I have people that I know, that I work with, or that I refer to that can help with speech. Is speech their real problem? Like, or are you talking to me about something else? Like, are you talking to me about something a little deeper where now I can collaborate with somebody and we can come at this from both ends of what exactly is your main concern? If your main concern is speech, I don't work with speech, but how can I still work with you? Where are there layers in your story where I can help to make a change that will help you interact with the world differently? For this, you have to dig, because people are going to give you something like, I'm concerned about their speech. It's really a concern about your child's future. You're concerned maybe they have been bullied, or maybe you were bullied when you were younger and you don't want that to repeat for your child. And so it's not a direct question that you're asking. It's just like, what's your deeper concern about the speech? How can, how can this speech change your child's interaction at school? How can they change their interactions at home? How is this impacting you in a deeper way? Well, it's also impacting their sleep. Well, now you're talking to me about something I can't actually work with. Like, now you're talking to me about more, and I didn't even mention the word sleep yet. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you have to get in there, because step 3 in my process is always probing and diving a little deeper. And so if I do start to ask these questions where I'm trying to fill in blanks, how is that really impacting you? How is that impacting their social interactions at school? How is this impacting your social interactions at work? Open-ended questions are key. Okay. So if you're going to ask a yes or no question, or a question that they can easily dismiss with a one-word answer, like, how is your sleep? Fine. Okay, ma'am, there's nothing I can do with that. There's absolutely nothing I can do with that if your sleep is fine. I typically like to ask if they had to rate their sleep on a scale, how would they rate it from 1 to 5? 5 being like every night of sleep is exceptional. They can't remember the last time they had a bad night of sleep. And 1 is the exact opposite. We're like, where would you rate your sleep? XYZ number. Why did you choose that number? And then they word vomit from there. Um, I like to ask when people are telling me about all sorts of ear infections or throat infections, or they did this, or they did that, or they had the other thing. They had all these congestion issues, allergies all over the place. Have you seen an ENT? Have you seen an allergist? Have you done any of this in the last year? Oh, the last time that I saw an ENT was when I was 7, but now you're 32. So like, do you have any intentions to see an ENT? Have you done anything else to resolve any of your congestion issues? Wait, listen, learn. Do you have a nasal hygiene routine? Has that been something that anybody told you to implement before in the past? Like, wait, listen, learn. You're going to get all of your data that you collect in these moments. Okay, so probe, ask questions that allow to go deeper. Okay. At the end of all that, I want you to summarize. So, from what I heard, you have a history of sleep apnea that was diagnosed a year ago. You haven't slept in the same bed with your partner in the last 3 years. Your sleep, you say you cannot sleep. Your sleep is absolutely a quantifiable 1 on my scale of 1 to 5. When you're sleeping without your CPAP, when you sleep with the CPAP, it only increases to a 2. And, whatever, you really not compliant. So you really don't sleep with it because you're not noticing the difference and yada, yada, yada. Your last sleep study had you at moderate sleep apnea. You've implemented, I don't know, some new naturopathic thing. Like, I'm talking to them to come back into, okay, did I miss anything? Oh, yes. There was that one time at band camp where, and they give you something else possibly that is like, oh, well, thanks for telling me that you had head and neck surgery because, that would have been really important to tell me the first time. You're not going to say that. But, did I miss anything? That way you cover all your bases. You have all of your information. You understand what's important to them. You understand how you can get there and how working with you will get there. It's really important. After your summary, what you do next matters. Okay. So just to confirm, we went through that whole SALES. We prioritized serving them. What can we do to serve them? We asked, we are going to listen intently. We're going to empathize and dive a little deeper. And we're going to summarize. All right. But before asking for the next step, make sure that you understand where they are now, where they want to be, what obstacles exist to that. I always start talking about how much of a commitment myofunctional therapy is. And so if you have an obstacle to that, then we're not right for each other because at some point you were going to drop out of the program anyway. And I'm not going to frustrate myself and you're not going to waste your money and your time. How do they measure success? What's their goal is how they measure success. I measure success by being able to share a bed with my partner. They're not going to say that vocally, but if that is your resounding undertone of everything that you've heard and all of your deep probing, then guess what? You can do all of your myofunctional tricks. You can help them look more youthful. You can get their tongue in proper posture. You can eliminate every OMD. But if at the end of the day, they cannot share the same bed with their partner, it was a failure. The myofunctional therapy did nothing for me. I don't see any of the other outcomes or results, or they're nice, but you didn't do what you said you would do. And by the way, never promise them that they'll get back in bed with their partner. We'll get to this and how you resolve this in a second. But that's how they measure success. Are you up to meet that measuring stick? Is that something that you've experienced before in the past? Is this something that you can actually speak to? Or is this somebody that's not the right fit for you? Because then stop trying to sell them. because you're only going to wind up with more problems. You might wind up with somebody who writes a 3-star review, even though you did phenomenal work doing all of the beautiful, wonderful things that you do with more myofunctional therapy. They're going to leave you a terrible review because they don't see the value. So how do they measure success is really important. Okay. And what's the value for them? It goes along with how they measure success. At the end of the day, the world revolves around them. It's all about them. It's all about what they see, what they value, what they want, their perspective. No one cares about your passion. No one cares about all of your education. They don't want you to word vomit all of your education all over them. If it has nothing to do with how I get back in bed with my partner, I don't care about tongue posture, right? These are things that I can resolve in another way. I can go to a sleep physician. I can go to an ENT. I can go to a clinic. I can go to YouTube. I can go anywhere to try to fix this problem some other way where I can circumvent the expense and the time of myofunctional therapy. So you have to speak to who they are and what they want. Okay. The world revolves around them. Step 4, actually, that's supposed to say, my apologies there. But now it's your time to talk. You spent most of that time listening. If I'm with somebody for 15 to 30 minutes, I'm for 2/3 of it listening. Most of the time I am listening. I might be asking some intentional questions and getting open-ended responses for a lot of questions, but listening. When it's your time to talk, that's when you can now speak to if Myo can or cannot help with their real problem, the actual problem that they have, right? Not the problem that you think they have, whether it be the congestion or nasal obstruction or their arch is too small or they have crowded teeth or whatever, their real problem. And I want you to be as open and honest as possible about it. Because in a world where we are inundated with so much information, where we know that there is such a thing as biased news, where people are lying to our faces all the time, people cheat, people steal, like everything just to get a sale. Nothing is more valuable than honesty. If you are not the person to help them, nobody is going to appreciate you more than the person who is finally honest enough to say that I'm not the one for you. Here is why. Okay. I spent a lot of time on some of my consultations talking to people with children, with babies and like early toddlers, children under 2. For the most part, unless we're doing some tongue tie stuff, I don't do anything. There's nothing I can do at that age. It's a compliance-based program. What? But I'm going to sit with you. I'm going to talk with you. We're going to talk about early development. We're going to talk about what great resources there are out there. We talk about Diane Barr's book. We're going to talk about Melanie Potuck, and that I want you to really follow her and I want you to go through all of that guidance. We're going to talk about all these things and I'm going to give you the best advice that I can. And I'm going to tell you that, look, it's not the end of the world if we can't start Myo because your child is 16 months. They're not going to have some detrimental life-altering changes that happens between them now at 16 months and them at 3 years. We can wait. It's okay. Those are some of the most grateful people I am ever able to talk to. Those are the people who are quicker to write Google reviews than any of my people that I've worked with for like lengthy periods of time. I have to keep harassing them. Can you please put up that review? The parents who I talk to after just a consultation are always just so eager to like, well, how can I help you? That was the first time somebody was honest with me and was able to tell me and directed me to valuable resources. Like, I can't thank you enough. So be honest. People value that, okay? Y'all know what that is, right? No bull. Okay. Step 4 continued. How Myo can help or not help with their real problem. Have you helped someone similarly? I have stories of people who have come off their CPAP, and I tell sometimes those stories to people. I'm like, you sound a lot like somebody that I've worked with. this person was 35 years old or whatever and had such and such problems and was working with a number of specialists on their sleep. And the myofunctional therapy really was the game changer. And when we were 4 months in, we were able to really make some changes to where the sleep physician she was working with wanted to do another test, and then they did another test without the CPAP, and they were sleeping so much better and whatever. And so at some point they were able to come off of that, and that was all under their physician's recommendation. And that physician still sends me people because the people who don't want to do the CPAP, or the people who are on it and like are tired of it and are threatening to quit it, those people are coming my way. So this is something that I might be able to help with. I cannot promise you that you're coming off your CPAP though. I can promise you that you will see improvement. And that improvement might be enough to help you get into the bed and share the bed with your partner. I can't guarantee it, but I can tell you I'm committed. I am committed to us achieving results that are optimal for what you are, where your dysfunction is, where your body is, and how we can work together. I share my process. These are the steps that I take. This is the commitment I need from you. And if we're working together, we're hand in hand, we're doing this together, and this is how we skip off into the sunset, yada yada. Or sometimes I'm not the right person, okay? I know somebody who is a absolute powerhouse in jaw and can help with such and such. And I think you are the exact person that they help the most. So yes, I do myo, and I like think I'm good at it, but there's actually some people who are better in some circumstances. And so this is who I would like you to talk to. Or you really need to address some of the structural issues because there's no room for the tongue. And so if we can send you to such and such, this is going to be how we're going to game plan this. Okay. I want you to do this in the most financially strategic way possible. And so I want you to go see such and such first for a consultation. Let me know how that consultation goes. And then after that, we're going to game plan as to when Maya would come into play, should you decide to go with that provider, or I've got a backup for you. But here's what you need to look out for, and yada, yada, yada. There's a whole sequence of wonderful events to this. Okay. And we'll maybe touch on it just a little bit, but you're going to share your recommendations. All right. Here's the point where I want you to now also be open to them asking all sorts of questions. They can ask questions about that case that you've shared. If you don't have a case that's like that, you can share an outcome from some research. You can share that in some research, there was a case of myofunctional therapy done similarly to the way I run my program, where somebody's AHI went down by 20 points. And if that's something you're looking for, I can likely get you to that end goal or something similar based on your body and how your body responds to the work that we do. And I'm committed to getting those results, to helping to improve your sleep and to getting you to where you want to be. Continue on the conversation and so forth. But then at the end of that, any questions? Yeah. So that person you worked with, or so you're committed. How long does this typically take? Whatever, like they're going to have questions. So just be open to these questions and answer them. They also might have objections. And when they do, I want you to be like Jack Nicholson. No, don't be like Jack Nicholson. Don't be creepy when you're saying your yes, but I want you to agree with whatever their objections are. This sounds awesome. Absolutely awesome, but it is just too expensive. You're right. You're right. My program is too expensive. It is pretty much on the pricey side. That's because of my commitment and how long I'm going to work with you and what all I'm bringing to the table. I'm providing all the supplies. I'm giving you the devices. I'm, doing all these things. I'm coming to you. I do mobile therapy. So my price is just my fee. My fee is just my fee. But you're right. It is very costly and some people cannot afford it. And so I'm glad that you brought that up. That is a wonderful response. I do have a solution. Here's my solution. It could be payment plans, might be your solution. It could be, I know so and so who practices and they're on the other side of town and they accept insurance. And so perhaps your copay might be lower. You can, whatever your solution is, but have a solution ready. Understand what your solution is. That way you can respond back. But you're not going to argue, well, my program isn't that expensive relative to, or that, no, my program isn't expensive just because you can't afford it. That's not the response, guys. You just agree. You're right. It is pricey. The cost of things have gone up. My husband was looking at the bag of potato chips the other day and he's like, I remember when we used to pay $2 for this. And I keep telling him, stop it. Stop it. Stop talking about what the prices used to be. The prices of everything have gone up. My prices have gone up, and it's just a sad world that we live in. But I am a firm believer in access to care, and therefore I have a solution for you. What's your solution? What's your thing? Okay. So when you get an objection, confirm it. I'm too old. You know what they say. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, I don't know that you want to fully agree or lean in, but you're right. Myofunctional therapy is more difficult to see the changes in the same span of time as you would have if you were 30 years younger. You would have seen it fast. You show me your grandchild, you show me your child, and we can get them results and we can get them changes, and their structure is going to change. Children are malleable, they change so fast. You're right. It's not impossible, though. Unwinding years of compensation that has been compounding year after year and only making you worse and worse, unwinding that isn't easy, but it's not impossible. It just takes a little longer. And if you're willing to commit, I'm willing to commit. And I am riding that wave with you. And so as we are slowly unwinding, you're going to see results. It won't be as fast as your grandchild or your child would see results, but you will see results. It is something that I am assuring you, you're going to see a difference in your habits. You're going to be able to, what's their main problem? You're going to be able to, eat a meal, keep your teeth, slow down your perio. Like, what is it that they're trying to do? Have a solution and a response, but confirm what it is that they're worried about. Because the more you no, you're not too old. Come on, relax. Well, that doesn't help. You're just making it sound like I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. I am old. Lean in. Lean in to what they're saying. Don't deny their objection. If all that goes awry and you've had the most beautiful, wonderful conversation and you've made a beautiful pitch and they don't want to work with you and they say, well, I got to think about it, or I'm going to talk to my spouse about it. Well, before you go, I want you to know that I want you to get the best care. So here's what I'm going to propose to you, that you do a second opinion. Talk to some other people, get another opinion. But here's what I want you to be on the lookout for. Be on the lookout for any plan where they are talking to you more about, I don't know, longer durations, or if they tell you that you have to do XYZ first, or they tell you that, what are the warning signs? What are some of the major pivotal things that you talked about that you're pretty confident your competition is not going to talk about? What are the things that you're pretty confident they're not going to get on another call? Because that's something that you want to highlight. And then that comes up as a red flag for them. They might talk to somebody else. What's interesting, and we got to talk about this for just a second, is that there was somebody who had called me and was like, oh, I spoke to somebody else. And they told me to be on the lookout for people who aren't certified. So are you certified? And I'm like, well, what certification are you looking for? Because there's 8 different certifications in this field, all of which really don't mean anything. It just depends on where you were educated and what you were taught. Which certification did they tell you to look out for? None. They just told me I need to ask about certification. Well, there are some certifications where all they have to do is take the class and boom, you got the certification. There's no examination, there's no clinical, there's like nothing. There's nothing. So they really should have given you more information. Here's what you should be on the lookout for. Here are signs or things that you should ask to know whether or not your myofunctional therapist is qualified, because just asking about a certification when some places are handing it out like it's water is not a really good classification between whether or not someone's knowledgeable. I'm like, at this point, I don't know who you spoke to, but I lecture, I teach, I have a certification course. I can tell you about the standards upon which I operate. I can tell you that I value excellence above and beyond some people who just got a really nice, fancy paper certification, and that there are things that you'll get with my program that you don't get with others. And so, if you're going to tell somebody about some warning signs, please give them like specifics, because they might wind up on the phone with me and then they'll close with me because they're annoyed that you just told them about certification, but didn't give them anything like that they had to really quantify outside of that. And then you wind up losing them on that warning signs thing. So just make sure that it is something specific to you. If you do something special, if you're told that myofunctional therapy can't help with XYZ, that's a red flag, because it absolutely can. Here's how, da, 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 and you're gonna lean in to your knowledge. You're gonna make yourself the preferred person. So they want to think about it. You're encouraging them to go get a second opinion. You're giving them red flags that you know they're not going to get from other places or people. Call me only after you've talked to somebody else. So while you're thinking about it, I really want you to dive in, because this is something I know you need. This is something I know you need, and I want you to get the help. And so you can talk to whoever. Please go talk to them. And if you don't feel confident that you're getting great answers or great responses or that they're going to be helpful, then call me back. That's it. If they object, I guarantee you, most of the people are calling you back in some way, shape, or form. Or, you might just win them over during your Q&A when they ask you some random question about a warning sign that's not a real warning sign. Okay? I want you to remember, as we're winding down here, that it is not about having the right people or the right questions or the right opportunities. It's about handling every opportunity that you are presented with correctly. So how you do your consultations matter. How you speak during your consultations matter. Show up with excellence at all opportunities, and you will win business every single time. Okay? If you have any questions, feel free, throw them in the chat. I want to thank you so much for joining me here this morning. It's about to be afternoon in a hot second. I look forward to seeing you again next week, where we will discuss more ways that you can be your best self and show up so that you are helping as many people as possible to sleep, breathe, and thrive. Bye, guys.